Everybody just welcome, get settled in. We have a lovely agenda for today. I'm so happy to see all of you. We are recording this meeting, so if you have comrades who are not here today and fellow delegate friends of yours that you know are going but weren't able to make this call, we will make this recording available to everyone. Maybe we can all mute ourselves as we come into this call just so we can hear everybody and all the gems of wisdom that we're going to share with you today. Let me call up my document here. Well, we are less than 50 days away from Terra Madre, as I am regularly reminded as I look at my calendar and look at all the things we have to do before we get to see each other in person. It's all going to be totally worth it. This is one of my favorite things that Slow Food does, even though it's crazy. The notion of it is insanity, that we're all just going to convene on this town in Italy from all points of the globe and be together and have this shared experience. It's truly I know Carlo Petrini has said this in the past at previous iterations, that it is a true miracle that Terra Madre happens at all. And I think as we move through all of the discussions, and I'm sure you've got a million questions as we start to get closer to this and you're figuring out all of your logistics, just know that there's so many people having the same experience at the same time. And when we are all together there, I think this it'll be this thrilling moment of recognition of having gone through something together. Not to mention all the things we're going to eat and taste and share, and all the friends we're going to make as well. So I am so grateful to be sharing this experience with all of you. We have a packed agenda today, and this is our midway point. Basically, we're going to have one more gathering together in September 12th, 7 p.m. Eastern is the next big group together meeting until we see each other in Italy. So as always, feel free to ask us questions, but this is really the space for getting some of your big questions answered. And thank you, Anna, for putting the agenda in the chat. So if you'd like to follow along, that is where it is. Ready for you. Okay, sorry, got a little bit distracted. So we're going to start with a few of just sort of centering ourselves on some expectations for Terra Madre. We're going to hear from Anna and Denise Livingston, our Slow Food Turtle Island rep, who will share with us a little bit like what to expect, our goals as a national office, what we're trying to accomplish with this trip to Terra Madre together. I will jump back in and talk a little bit about programming, both the informal ideas that we have for informal programming, as well as the formal programming agenda that Slow Food International is pulling together for us. And then Brian's going to take it away with some thoughts about some swag and ways to show our pride for the Slow Food USA delegation. And then Dion's going to lead the breakouts where we will talk about the delegate handbook and how we share information when we're at Terra Madre. So without further ado, Anna, why don't you take it away with some expectations?
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you. Thank you, Mara, for kicking off this call today. My name is Anna Moulet. I'm the Executive Director of Slow Food USA, and I am based here in Brooklyn. And if you hear 3 crazy kids behind me, my son just got home from camp with his friends, so please ignore any background noise. I just wanted to express my excitement for having all of you come as delegates to Terra Madre this year. We have an incredible delegation. And one of the most exciting things to me is that you all get to meet each other. You are Slow Food, you are the network. So I would love if you would jump into the chat right now and give a little introduction. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your thing? What do you what's your place in the food system? So just jump into the chat right now. We'll have some time in breakouts later today, but it's just good to get a sense of where people are coming from. Wonderful. Yes, if you could include your pronouns too, that is excellent. Thank you. So my first and only Terra Madre was actually back in 2016. I had been on staff for 1 year, and Terra Madre for me was the moment where I got it. Like I got what the slow food thing was, specifically during the parade when all the delegates came together. It was this amazing moment of energy and passion and joy, just so much joy and enthusiasm for coming together as a global network. And that's what I hope you'll find also at Terra Madre. It's a big event, right? It's a huge event. There's a lot of people coming. There's a lot of programming. So we'll talk a little bit too about how to create space for wellness and taking care of yourself and really embracing the slow part of slow food, even in such a big event. But I wanted to just set the stage with some of the intentions that we have as a national office for Terra Madre. So there's 3 main buckets that we're excited about, and I'll put the agenda in the chat one more time because it's been a little buried. Thank you for all these amazing introductions. The 3 big buckets here are we want to connect. We want to connect with each other in the United States. We want to connect internationally with our global delegates around the world. We want to provide, as a national office, we want to help provide space for you all to connect with each other. And we want to set up some key meetings with other countries to really build those relationships. The second big bucket is alignment. We've talked with a lot of the leaders in the Slow Food USA network, and we've agreed that our theme as a Slow Food USA delegation is joy and justice. This came out of our equity, inclusion, and justice work, and I think does a really great job at talking about how slow food, yes, it's about the joy, it's about amazing flavors and delicious food. It's also about the justice of food and making sure we center inclusion, making sure we celebrate diversity, and making sure we talk about decolonization and white supremacy culture in our network and in our food systems, and how together we can dismantle those destructive systems. So joy and justice is our main theme. We're also, as a national movement, working together on a new strategic direction. We're about like 3/4 of the way through that process. So we'll be spending some time getting feedback from you all on that direction. And lastly, we want to act together, right? We want to participate in panels. We want to help the next generation of leaders. Mara loves to say, get their slow food vitamins, and to be equipped to come home and lead slow food locally. So with that are our intentions. I would love, again, if you could jump into the chat and give your intention. Like if you have like that 1 or 2 thing that you really want to come home from Terra Madre saying that was a satisfying trip because X, because this happened, I did this thing. It would be really helpful for us to know what you all are expecting, and to help facilitate that if possible, and also good for each other to see what you're expecting. So if you could jump into that and just say, what is your intention? What is your goal? What would make Terra Madre satisfying for you? Amazing. That is most of what I have to say. Just at the top, I said, we need to remember that energy comes from activity and from rest. And this rest part can be really hard at Terra Madre. So I wanted to toss it over to Denisa. I think Denisa is here. She's one of our fantastic Turtle Island Association Indigenous leaders from Diné Nation. And she is going to talk about the Indigenous Terra Madre programming, but also rest and how rest can be so important there. Thanks, Denisa.
Yeah, hi everyone. She Denise Livingston and she Akitachini and Shantisha Dina Ebashichin, was a Dina Tachini Dashache, Donanish Ajitachini Dashanella. I say that Nasha a Tedagon will Diogut Dianishila. Just introduce myself and Danet. Welcome, greetings. If everyone can say Yat, which means everything is well. We make this declaration because what we're exploring in this season in a pandemic, going to Terra Madre is something that we probably would have never thought that we would be doing right now. I am one of the steering committee members for Slow Food Turtle Island Association. I just recently concluded my term as a Slow Food International Counselor of the Global North. And it's been quite a journey during this pandemic, but as well as connecting in this space with all of you. Some of you are first timers, some of you will be coming to the event, just really engaging and curious. And I just really want to emphasize a couple of different things. I was really actually the Princess Warrior to go out and scout before you guys. I came back from Italy about a couple weeks ago from the Slow Food International Congress meeting, and we hadn't met in person since before the pandemic. We've been meeting continuously through the pandemic, and we did pass motions that are very relevant to our food systems, and as well as the work, going forward, what does it look like, and all of the global climate challenges, and also looking at climate resiliency, looking at women's roles, looking at youth roles, looking at, our food systems in an aspect of inclusion and anti-racist, inclusive, biodiverse, very informative, empowering experience that we can all participate in. And so it was quite an amazing time. We did meet at the University of Gastronomic Sciences, which is the birthplace of slow food. If those of you have never been, I recommend looking it up, asking Grandma Google about it. She'll tell you about, the school and the programs there and the students. It was quite an amazing time. And of course, the slow food that we stayed at the Slow Food Hotel, which is the old royal estate. We had, everything slow. And so I'm really excited for all of you, especially if you're just really engaging, and probably maybe this may be your first international trip in a pandemic. And so climate change is very real. It was very warm, which normally we don't expect it to be. We want to go and relax and have, a cool time. But it was very warm. So I just advise you now, to be, I'm not sure what the weather will be like, but to be aware of the heat. Even in the airplane, it was quite warm. And it's very real how we need to stay hydrated, how we need to take care of our bodies, but also just be intentional about also, our presence there. We really want people to be in a healthful, safeful manner there, as well as traveling there and back. So, start exercising, taking some walks, get ready for the airport. Sorry about that. If those of you that are not speaking, can you mute yourself, please? And so in engaging in some of the aspects of what will be happening, we will be meeting at one of the parks outside of Turin. And so it's a new place that we actually are exploring, other than, the Parco del Valentino, which, we have been meeting at before. So this is a quite different industrial type of aspect. There will be some travel between the hotel and the park that we're going to. So please, start preparing yourself. I want to emphasize, make your load lighter, because when you do go to the event and you're having to travel back and forth to the hotel, you're going to be coming back with bags and information and products. And, if you need, something to, maybe a small, travel tote, whatever that you need to, engage, because it's not like a back and forth kind of, I'm going to run to the hotel and back. It's none of that. We're pretty much all day long, all night long, some folks, all evening long, and it's going to be really demanding on our bodies and our spirit and our heart. And so as we think about the energy that comes from all of these activities and preparing, it's also finding that time in rest. Finding that time to be able to facilitate the rest that we need in our workplace, in what we're doing, manifesting what we need to actually, think about what we are going to contribute there. Whether you're a presenter, whether you're doing a food demo, whether, you're working with others to create an experience for others that we're taking here collectively and establishing there too, right? Because we're taking what's in our space, what's in our heart, what's in our spirit there to be able to share with many folks that we have shared, commonalities of grief, pain, suffering, a lack of access to healthy foods, all of these different circumstances that we're all on this mindset of regeneration, but the regeneration of peace, of hope, of love and joy, all these different aspects that, some of us may find ourselves in our communities, where are all these things? Let's spread the pandemic of that love and joy and peace and slowness. And so think about, how you will be intentional, not just now in participating today, but also participating in the incoming, any emails that are coming in, asking questions, inquiring, really getting involved. And so as we look at the spontaneity of opportunities coming up, and we know that with international, things come up really quickly. You have to be ready, you have to respond, you can't put things off, you can't say, oh, I'll respond later, then the opportunity is gone. We know that, we've been trying to have some order and some recognition of a schedule that will work, for us, for everyone to be able to be included. But sometimes there are some things that need to be responded to, especially now we're coming to electing a new council. So those nominations are due at the end of the month. Please make that note today if you are interested in being one of the Slow Food International leaders. There is a process for it. There is, a method to be able to be included in that and to be considered. And so let's also spread the word to our colleagues, make those recommendations as needed, because what we're trying to work towards is meeting these new counselors at Terra Madre, and then as well as making time to be able to facilitate that process. Some key highlight events: opening ceremony is Thursday at noon. We have a Slow Food Turtle Island Association meeting September 23rd on Friday. We also have a US and Canada meeting for all of us here at 1:30 on Saturday. And then we also will have a separate Indigenous Terra Madre programming and event that we're working. We have confirmed the framework and everything. We're just really trying to see who has got their plane tickets, who will be there as of now, because if you already made your plans to be there, we need to see, and confirm those names, and also be plugging in folks into the activities and the events and the panels, but also the exchange that will happen between the Indigenous folks. And as well as inviting all of you to these programs as we finalize the events. We will share that with you all to be able to see, what you can be a part of, because we can get lost at Terra Madre. You're like, I'm going to run to the restroom. I'll be right back. 2 hours later, you met someone from Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, China. You met someone from Chile, and you're like, oops, I was supposed to be right back at my meeting. And then you end up going for gelato. And then you're like, oh, I should get more gelato for my friends. And you end up like, making all these different curves and turns and everything. And it's like, time flies by so quickly, but the order of how we should, have our schedules, please start writing a schedule out for yourself. I know the Slow Food staff is doing a great job. They will actually put a schedule together to, see like who's talking when. I really recommend that we support each other. If you want to hear Jim Embry, if you want to hear, some, certain folks that are speaking in different places, write that in, because if you have an agenda, you will get the most of what needs, what is happening there, other than the vendors, talking with the producers, making new friends, building new relationships. All of those things are happening in the short time. And so we will actually be in touch with you, those of you that are part of ITM, to see, where to plug you in. And then the closing ceremony, that is usually an amazing time. And so I hope, that we start to look at the website, see how you can be involved, see what's going on, and as well as how you can rest at the same time. And so I hope everyone, declares that restful time, makes a part of the agenda, the schedule, but also be accountable to one another. Check in on one another. If you're not hearing back from folks, if you're not hearing from, one another, or if you just want to be in touch, start pinging your leaders, start pinging your people and say, like, I'm here. How do you need help? How can I, co-facilitate? How can I, partner? Or, are you getting enough rest? And it's taking that heart check, and it's also taking that temp check and checking on one another, because we all don't know, right, how things can happen in these days and what can happen. So this is why it's really, a mindful time for all of us as snails to do our part. And if we study in this way, where we do understand our part is very important, it really matters, what we put back into each other's lives to be able to have the fullness and the best experience of Terra Madre. And so everyone, thank you so much.
Denisa, thank you so much for your experiential breakdown of how Terra Madre can be. I think that's extremely helpful to have that perspective of, get yourself an agenda. The full program isn't out yet. We just have a few things that are fully scheduled. So we will have a full schedule at some point, a little bit closer to, probably by our next meeting, we'll have a full schedule. But it's good to share some of these things so you can start to frame out what you might be wanting to spend your time on in a formal way. Thank you so much, Denisa, for that. And thank you for also thinking about that heart check and checking in with each other. I mean, for a lot of our delegates, this is their first time away. This is their first time actually in another country. And certainly all of us really haven't done much traveling recently. So this is the benefit of a big family like this, where we can check in with each other, make sure we're drinking water and resting and not getting too overwhelmed, and taking everything in stride. We're so grateful for Slow Food International and the government of Turin to be hosting us. I mean, they really do a lot of logistics for this program. Speaking of programming, I wanted to give a little bit of an overview as I've been getting information from Slow Food International, and as our staff has been talking about how we want to show up as the Slow Food USA delegation. I just want to let you know kind of where we're at with some of that and how to frame your thought process as you're thinking about engaging with this programming. I've been thinking about it in two ways. There's sort of two big tracks. There's the formal programming and there's informal programming. The formal programming are sort of the big talks that'll be on stages that you might have to register for, that you might have to pay for in the instance of like the dinners and the tastings. All of those things are on the Slow Food, the Terra Madre 2022 website. As the schedule gets more formalized with the speakers, nailing down the speakers, all of that will also be on there. Some of your fellow delegates will be speaking in some of those arenas. And that's what Denisa was referring to when we said we would pull together an agenda or a program that shares where all of our delegates are speaking. So if you wanted to attend some of those formal sessions and support your delegates, that'll be at your fingertips. We'll have that in a very easy to access place. So, and just to clarify, I have gotten a few emails from you folks as you've been thinking about this conference that the whole conference is free to anyone who wants to attend. Like anyone could walk in off the street and go to some of these events, but there is a track of ticketed events, and those are dinners and specific kinds of tastings where there's an actual meal associated with it. Those are listed on that same website, which I think, let's see if we can put that link in the chat here for you. We'll get it, we'll pull it up. But those are fully optional. Everything that is a ticketed event is fully optional. You will not have a lesser experience if you don't go to a ticketed event. Definitely don't feel pressured to go to anything ticketed, because the whole conference is unbelievable. And as Denisa was referring to, you're going to be walking through and experiencing things, and you'll just stumble into a session that's going to change your life. So definitely you don't need to focus on ticketed events, but if you're curious and you want to do one, I mean, that makes sense to me. Then there's the informal programming track, and this is what the staff has been spending a lot of time thinking about, and how do we want to show up as Slow Food USA? And we've thought about, a couple of options, and when we go into our breakouts, I think we would like to get some feedback about these ideas so that we can definitely be programming out what you want. So this is what we've come up with, and if you're following along in the notes doc, there it's all laid out there. We're trying to have a nice balance between just social engagement and a time to unwind and let our hair down together, a time to gather and share with our individual affinity groups. Like, if you're a school garden educator and you want to hook up with other school garden educators in our network, that's what I mean. And then another thought that we've had is that intentional rest, as Denisa reminded us, like taking a minute to just step aside and have a meditation or something along those lines. Do we want to have a structured version of that? And then general meetups. There's been a discussion about having a WhatsApp group for all the delegates so that we can easily contact each other. I'm unclear as of yet as what the Wi-Fi situation and phone reception situation is at this park. So more to come on that particular option, but a WhatsApp group is not a terrible idea, I don't think. So some ideas for let me just back up a little bit. The programming that is formal is going to be scheduled throughout all the daytime hours. So up till like probably around 8 o'clock is when most of the programming, the formal programming, will end. And then there's this like gap of time before delegates get on their buses and go back to their hotels. And you know, there's like a wine area called the Enoteca, and there's a beer garden, and sort of everyone kind of migrates to that section of the whole area that we have there at the park at that time towards the evening hours. And that's another opportunity for some informal gathering. So just to sort of frame your ideas to what that might look like. And so some of those social aperitivo hour ideas, we've had a few folks say they would like to maybe have an opportunity to gather as a Black affinity group. There's interest in doing an LGBTQIA aperitivo. Aperitivo is happy hour in Italian. We would love to have any regional counselors who are going to be attending Terra Madre to gather at some point, and we'll be in touch with you about that. That could be social also. And then there's some thoughts about all the storytellers in our group. We have so many storytellers in the Terra Madre family that Brian has this notion of having a story slam of some sort. So those would be like very social and not structured necessarily type of gatherings. And then the lunch and learn, the idea is one of these really crazy ironies of Terra Madre is that this notion that you're running around from thing to thing to thing, often you forget to eat a meal because you're so crazed, running from thing to thing and getting caught up talking to people. So one suggestion that came up that I really value is that the sponsored delegates will have access to, they have their meals covered, and they'll have access to what's called the Terra Madre canteen. And at the canteen is lunchtime, and there will be food, and there'll be long tables. And we were thinking, would it be nice if like the Slow Food staff like commandeered a table, and every day at lunch we said, come get lunch, we're going to be here. And, you know, maybe we'll have these staff members there on a day to field a discussion at lunchtime about these topics, EIJ, Arc of Taste, school gardens, those kinds of things. If chapter leaders wanted to get together at lunch, and maybe that's the kind of thing we don't need to even formally organize or informally organize, but maybe just planting the seed of that is enough. But I think it's nice to have that touch point in the middle of the day where you can expect to have a meal and get fortified and sit down, take a breath. This is part of that meditative, you know, care of yourself as well. Drink some water, but also touch base with your delegation. So this is another concept we had, and we're happy to do a little bit of formal programming around that if you're interested in that. And then this notion of having a sort of a gathering to rest. Rest is resistance was what Dan came up with earlier. And that's a really beautiful notion that when we rest, we're also taking care of ourselves and able to keep on going with this good fight of good, clean, and fair together. Some ideas were yoga, meditation, breathing, just sitting, a dance it out, shake it out session together. These are some ideas that we came up with. And then the meetups idea, having a WhatsApp group. So I guess what I would like is for maybe a little bit of discussion around this to happen in the breakouts in a few minutes. So with the, we're going to break out regionally like we did last time, and we have more staff on hand today. So I hope the groups are a little bit smaller rather than doubled up like last time, so that we can meet each other again and have a nice discussion. I'm not going to go over the total formal programming here. I have a lot of details in the notes doc that are helpful maybe to those that really want a little bit more detail about what the formal programming is going to look like. But in general, I think I mentioned at the last call, we're focusing, it's structured around the three pillars of slow food, which is biodiversity, education, and advocacy. So there'll be different arenas that have the topics of the discussions around those 3 pillars. And there'll be a lot of hands-on and a lot of taste workshops as well. I'm gonna pause because my dog is losing his mind, and I think I'm gonna pass it over to Anna to move it, or
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just I would love to see, we'll talk more about this in the breakouts, but if you have any questions, please, or if you're like, yes, I want to help with that one, go ahead and put that in the chat. This is really helpful for us as we're programming, doing all this informal programming. Brian, over to you.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so just for folks who don't know me, I'm Brian Solom. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Director of Communications for Slow Food USA. And I'm super stoked to meet all of you and raise a glass in various aperitivi, which I think would be the plural, but somebody will correct me in the chat. Anyway, so I wanted to bring up a couple of cool updates. One totally optional thing that everyone in this room can do is head on over to our bonfire store. And I'll share the link to that in the chat, and pick up an exclusive 2022 Terra Madre t-shirt and or hat. So just to show you, this is a store called Bonfire. They do really great things for nonprofits and let us create custom swag that folks like you can purchase. We're centering our kind of our overall theme around joy and justice, as you've heard over and over again through this conversation. And so our aesthetic is kind of building off of that beautiful Terra Madre aesthetic that the International Office created, but really rooting us in our endless pursuit of joy and justice for all as the Slow Food USA national delegation and national community. So we've got short sleeve shirts, we've got long sleeve shirts, we've got kind of a mid-weight crew neck, just in case we have some chilly nights in autumn in Torino. So check that out. We also have a cute hat. This will help us kind of identify each other as we're making our way through the massive Parcadora, and help us be like, oh yeah, that's that person who I saw on Zoom for those 3 meetings, and now I get to finally meet them in real life. So check those out, purchase as many or as few of them as you'd like, and I'd love to yeah, see you all and identify you by swag while we're in the Parcadora. We also have a slow shop that you may be familiar with, and this has some homegrown swag that we've added to and maintained over the years as Slow Food USA. We can, a couple of recommended purchases that you could make in our slow shop include a really fun bamboo utensil set that could be very handy and help you cut down on some of the utensil waste that is inevitable at such a food-focused conference such as this. We also have a very cute lapel pin. And we have a number of totes as well, including one that features that iconic Arc of Taste snail. So feel free to check out those items, purchase them, and we'll get them shipped off to you as soon as possible. I will note for the shirts and hats, I'd recommend ordering those possibly by the end of the month, if not, you know, before, I'd say September 6th. They print them in batches, and so that just means that it's not an instant purchasing opportunity. Like once 50 people will order a t-shirt, then they'll ship it out. So it'll take about 2 weeks. So yeah, just make sure that you get that in time before you leave. Go ahead and order it ASAP. And finally, I just wanted to bring up an idea that Jim Embry actually touched on in his email earlier this week. This idea of exchange, this idea of like bringing something from where you are and the traditions that you represent and the lived experiences that you represent to this amazing community of folks from around the world in a sort of lagniappe style of exchange. So we really want to encourage you to think about maybe one small food item that you could bring, you know, a handful of, maybe a couple dozen of, and then exchange with people while you're at Terra Madre. Some ideas that you see listed in the agenda are things like a maple candy from Vermont or sea salt from Cape Cod. If you get special points if it's an Arc of Taste item, of course. But yeah, think about something that you could bring just to share a little bit of your experience, your identity, and your traditions with other people from around the world. I'm still trying to think about how to get Chicago-style giardiniera to Italy. TBD, maybe some little jars. We'll find out in 6 weeks. I'm also curious, like if other folks who've been to Terra Madre in the past, if you've had some success with an item that you've brought with you, just to kind of help us think about what we might want to bring. You can just go ahead and add it in the chat or take yourself off mute and let us know.
I'll jump in a little bit if you want. Anything dried is good, always, right? Non-liquidy, especially if you're checking luggage. The other thing I would request maybe from the Slow Food USA team would be if we can get a letter that's translated into English and Italian that says like this food is being brought for the purposes of sharing and display at Terra Madre. All the TSA guys know what slow food is and know what Terra Madre is. So that can be really helpful if they're having some questions about whether, for example, you're bringing sage or an herb that they might not be so sure of. So.
Hi, this is John Haddad from Richmond. I know there's been a call for bringing product for an exhibition of grains and nuts. I was hoping to get some more info on that. I know in 2016, we gave out some things from our, from the Slow Food USA booth. I brought peanuts from Virginia as an example, and that would seem to be pretty popular.
I can speak to that, John. I feel like that call to action is for the biodiversity hall.
Okay.
And they are trying to get a really good, what am I trying to say? A really good display of all the regional foods in those categories that was in the email. I think it was cereals, pulses, and something else. I'm not recalling at this moment, but if you have things from your region that represent those items, they're going to be put on display in the biodiversity hall to give a very physical and very real sense of how complex our biodiversity is.
Great. Any other questions about items for exchange? Any other ideas or examples of what folks have done in the past?
I would just say that if something can be in a printed package as opposed to like Ziploc bags and things like that, because I do know that when someone a few years back was trying to bring in, for example, some sage for a ceremony, she actually got stopped by the police and searched, and it kind of ended up as a really strange event there. And so I don't know, someone should probably do some research, because I remember like many years ago that it was easier to send your things ahead of time through the mail and let them go through the customs and the agricultural inspections that way than trying to put it in your suitcase and go through like TSA or customs coming in and out of Italy. So someone else would have to do some research about that.
Yeah, I think the Slow Food USA team will gather a little bit more information and send out an additional round of recommendations and updates. But that's really good advice. And yeah, it does happen, as you're pointing out, Jillian, that the issues arise and it could start your experience off on a less than ideal note. So
I just had a similar question about customs and seeds. Are there any things that we need to take in consideration? I know when seeds are coming to America, there's through GRIN, there's usually a process. I'm wondering if there's any formal paperwork that we need for bringing any seeds over.
that's a great question, Melanie. And actually, Dion offered some answers in the chat. And I don't know if, Dion, you want to mention them in the group too?
Yeah, definitely. So like Melanie pointed out, historically, bringing things into the US is a bit more difficult than bringing things to Europe. There are a lot more stipulations as to what we can bring back as opposed to what we can bring over there. So historically, it's been okay. There are just a lot of limitations on products that include like meat, whether it's like cured or it's an ingredient or something things that are inclusive of dairy. Seeds are okay. And there are some issues with things like dried citrus, like certain leaves and peels. But I'm gonna finalize that and put it in the delegate handbook to make sure. Both the EU page as well as the US Customs and Border Protection, they consistently say that there's food as such like a moving target, but it's easier to but I'll make sure that that information is finalized once the date gets a bit closer.
Excellent. So more to come when it comes to seeds and yeah, the exchange of items too. So yeah, Denise, I see your hand is raised. Denise, did you want to come off mute? I can't unmute you for some. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. My screen froze. I didn't have any issues. I did take some items already for the exhibit, some different types of beans, some of our dinette that was dried, and as well as some grains, and went smoothly. The other concern that I have in response to what we're taking there, I know it has to be on the ARC and then also the ARC of Taste and then also Presidia, is that I'm asking, what's going to happen with all these products, once they're done exhibiting. And one of the comments back is that you can go back and retrieve them and then give them to who you would like to give them, or we're responsible to help to figure that out, I guess. And so just to be mindful, if you're bringing a lot of product, you may end up back with it, or you might have to, give that to somebody else or find a home for it, to be able to move that product out of the exhibit. And so I guess if you don't claim it, they'll find someone to give it to, which is really unfortunate. I think they should be cataloging some of these things, or doing something after the fact. The other thing too is the paperwork. The letters, I'm not sure what letters we will be getting, if we need that at customs or anything, but it looks like things should be going smoothly as far as any of the dried stuff goes. Thank you.
That's great to know, and also great that you've had this experience pretty recently, and so it's good to hear from you and that it went relatively smoothly, and we can hope that that we all have the same experience.
Brian, I forgot to mention too, bubble wrap. And you guys probably know olive oil, any bottles, bubble wrap at the last moment. You're like, what do I wrap all this glass with? Vino, all of these different things that are in glass. Start to figure that out on your own, or paper, whatever that may be, for you to wrap those up and check it in on the way back.
A great thing to add to our packing lists. Yeah, some sort of insulating material for those precious bottles. I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat too. I just want to make sure they're addressed. A couple about seeds, which I think we're good on. Is it okay to bring a dried desert vegetable? This is from Liz. It sounds like dried is in the realm of okay, but we'll add that to our list of things to just confirm. I think amounts, we've kind of covered that too, right? Like not too much, but if you're having a kind of intimate connection with someone, that's a really great time to offer what the item is that you brought. So yeah, everything in moderation, and yeah, think about not giving something to everyone, but something that might come up in a really chance encounter with someone. So yeah.
Brian, one more comment before I forget. I think some of the quantities that would suffice for the exhibit is 3 cups of whatever you're bringing for the exhibit.
That's great. Okay. So 3 cups, and we will note that for the exhibit. Okay, great. Anything else about the swag or the apparel, or questions about bringing items to exchange with other people at the event?
I have a question. When I clicked on the link for the swag, I didn't see the sweatshirt. Do you know why that might have been?
Yes. So if you click on the t-shirt and then you scroll down under style, there are like 3 little icons. There's like a tri-blend unisex tee, tri-blend long sleeve tee, and then a mid-white crew neck sweatshirt. It's kind of confusing because you would think they would be individual items in the shop. So yeah, maybe I'll
Great.
break that out into 3 separate campaigns for other folks, but yes, make sure, yeah, to click on the t-shirt if you want to see the whole collection of tops that we have available.
Hi, I have a question about honey.
Yeah, go for it.
If you bring honey, it's supposed to be in some kind of tasting. Does it have to be in a certain size container?
Honey, from what I saw, honey is one of the things that's on the list that does need a certain size container. I'm gonna follow up with that because the EU said it was allowed in limited quantities, but didn't necessarily give a specific quantity for travel. Mara, do you have anything to answer for that?
I don't. I was gonna say exactly what you said. I think there's a certain quantity, so we'll research that, that you're allowed to bring, but I think smallish. Smallish is the general rule.
Makes total
Small
sense.
and not excessive. When it gets excessive, then that's when, there are questions about it. But if it's, and also you can declare, that you're bringing gifts for your friends. So if, the slow food thing, is something that is not mentioned, we were told when we went to Congress, that if there are small quantities, you say, these are gifts for friends.
Makes sense. Good strategy. Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you talked about it already, probably yes, but another thing that is good to know is on your carry-on, normally you shouldn't have liquid that is more than 100 milligrams. I think for Europe, that's it's a rule. Maybe you already talked about it and I missed it. But
No, that's a really great reminder. And yeah, for folks who, yes, just like Francesca said, for folks doing carry-on only, make sure your liquid limits are 100 milligrams, right? Per
container. So you can even have 5 containers, each having 100 milligrams, but it had to be separate for safety.
Absolutely. Well, great.
On that note, Brian, one really quick important thing is that although for me, I always try to not check any luggage or prevent all of that in my own case, but more frequently our carry-on luggages have been taken, so it ends up getting checked in because of the overload of luggages, the excessive luggages that are going as carry-on bags and all of these different things. So I just want to let people know that even though you intend, to have a carry-on, it could be taken and asked to be checked at some certain point. So really think about that. And, if you need to just check it with all of your goods there, instead of, going through the whole thing of trying to get everything scanned through and also checked at security for the foods, but also not risking losing what you are carrying.
Yes. Air travel is complicated, as we know, and you may have the best of intentions for your carry-on, and it may end up under the plane. So yeah, just good reminder to keep that in mind. Absolutely. I just wanted to mention one more thing before we roll over to the breakout session. When you arrive at registration at Terra Madre itself, you will get a little bag that will have a badge. It'll have a map, a program of events, and then a couple of little surprise items from the Slow Food USA team. So just quick thing to mention, you'll get your tote, and you'll get a bunch of other things. So that is awaiting you. And what also awaits you is a breakout room. So like it was said at the beginning, we're gonna each meet with our friends in our individual regions. I will very shortly open up some breakout rooms. Please go ahead and join the room that is representative of the region you're representing. And then for folks who are in the Northwest, if you actually want to stay in this room.
Southwest.
Southwest.
Yeah, Southwest, yeah.
Thank you. If you're in the Southwest, please stay in this room, and Anna will be your awesome facilitator, and we'll explore some of these questions and get to know each other a little bit in depth. And yeah, we'll spend about 25 minutes together. So.
Oh my goodness, this was so much fun to be in a smaller setting and just talk with each other about some really fun ideas. So I'll share back 2 things from the Northeast, and then I'll pass it on to the various regions to report back what you guys, maybe some key points that came up in your session. I was hosting the Northeast. We had Sarah, Megan, Nisreen, Francesca, Elena, and Kyle, and myself. They were interested in possibly having a cell phone breakdown, like how to use your cell phone in Italy in the handbook. Also, emergency contacts for delegates might be a good thing for us to have somewhere in case anything, we need to contact any of your family members for any reason. It's good to be prepared. Also a phrase guide, you know, I'm a farmer, I'm a chef, where's the hospital if anything happens, things like that might be fun to have. Also some suggestions for any really good translation services on your phone. So, and then regarding programming, our room thought it'd be really fun to somehow engage in a dance somehow, somewhere along the way as a nice moment to just shake it off a little bit. And folks in my room were really liked the idea of having a couple touch points for the delegation to meet, whether it be at lunch or somewhere else, just so you don't feel adrift, and at least you know there's something to that could be calling you to regather with some of the folks. So that was a vote for some more informal programming, which I was really appreciative. Let me pass it off to whoever was hosting the Pacific. I think that was Patricia, right?
Yes, it was. So it was great to see. We had a great contingency. And I think a couple things that came up for us were around logistics and transportation, just making sure that, you know, getting from the airport to where it is that we need to be. Tiffany was in our session, and she just said, it's like, I think you said it can be a winding road, but if there is transportation, you will get from point A to point B. So just, I think, you know, clarifying a little bit of the logistics around transportation, asking about registration, where is that going to be at Parkadora? I think we're going to flesh that out in some of the further communications. And then hospitality. I think this kind of echoes one of the things that you just said, Mara, is that there's a, you know, kind of a designated space in place that if you just didn't want to, you just want to go check in and say hi to other folks in our contingency in the US delegation, that this is the place where you can find, you know, us, our community, and just have that as sort of a set location. And that's what really came out of it for us.
Great, thank you so much. Midwest, that was Brian's group.
Yep. We had a great chat. It was great to meet new people in the Midwest and a couple people I had already met. Similar to Patricia, transportation was something that was of keen interest to folks in our room. Also, things like having a listing of all of the activities that take place in Torino throughout our time there that are not directly related to Terra Madre. So what can we do to kind of stay plugged into the city life as well as the festival life? And then, yeah, some great advice from Joel was just to get out of your comfort zone, you know, do what you can to push yourself to meet new people, even, and kind of push through the discomfort of maybe a language barrier. So that was something that was helpful to me and a good reminder to me and hopefully to others in the room. Yeah, that was the Midwest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Isn't it fun to sit down and talk with everybody? Just imagine we get to do it in person. It's gonna be so much fun. Let's do the Southwest. Anna, that was your group, right?
Yes, definitely. So it's again, like people are saying, it's really nice to connect. People are excited to just get to know each other. There's some questions around ticket discounts for members. Slow Food USA members get a 15% discount, and the answer to that for now was email membership@slowfoodusa.org, and we'll do a quick verification of the membership and give you the code, or you should, in some of the emails, we've included the code if you're a member already. The tickets, the questions like how do you get tickets on the website? If the location for ticket events are all at the park, and we talked about some are like offsite and special venues for partner events. And yes, this question of what is a sponsored delegate versus a community delegate came up. And also, how can we be more inclusive to the LGBTQ community? Kat was saying, especially as our society gets more and more divided around these important communities, how can we be super intentional? So I told her, and I'll tell everyone, if there are things that we can do as our national staff, we're not the host of the event, but we can advocate and we can help. Just let us know, whether it's about LGBTQ or any other accessibility issues. We want to be super aware of your needs and help us all have a really healthy experience there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Those are great ideas. Who had Southeast? Was that Dion?
That was I. That was me. Really awesome group. Some seasoned veterans in Jim and Gary, and also some first time leaving the country folks in the group. So really excited conversations there. Similar conversations about overall itinerary, what does that look like, and if we can get that into a schedule format or calendar format, that'd be great. Questions about health related, are there any sort of vaccination documentation that needs to be taken place, as well as what does general security look like? We're bringing a lot of things over of value, especially if you're in lodging. What does the security look like there? So really good questions. Gary did bring up that he was just in Rome, and there's a really helpful app for ride sharing for transportation, ride sharing, but taxis, called IT Taxi. So that was a really good resource to have. But yeah, that was kind of the gist from the Southeast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Denise, Slow Food Turtle Island group, what did you guys chat about?
Chat about politics and food.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Just really connecting on, on the issues that have been, relevant in our communities during the pandemic. Looking forward to connecting with those, across the world, how are they, handling some of the crises, and also looking at the opportunities of building those strategies together. And I think it's really an empowering time when we do, convene as ITM, but looking to share our voices, concerns, and also the efforts at that level. Clayton did comment, today is Pueblo Revolt Day at Tesuque Pueblo in New Mexico. It's an official holiday, and so we wanted to recognize that. And as well as just being intentional about how important it is to build solidarity of our work, and also the impacts of our efforts, and what does that look like, collectively, and also just being a part of this delegation together. There's a lot of healing in action. There's a lot of healing, strategies that, we're trying to pull together, regarding communications, regarding, doing events together, that we feel that is really important, looking at, this in an aspect where we're trying to get the message out, but also, just being mindful of how many of our people are not able to travel, are not able to navigate to the other side of the world, and how do we bring that experience back? I know we've been talking with Slow Food USA staff about reconvening after we come back from Terra Madre, right? You know, what are our takeaways when we come back? You know, how do we continue what we've learned after we have returned from our trips, but also just knowing the safety of everyone is very important, health-wise, you know, and as well as just being mindful of, you know, making sure that you're breathing, making sure that you're eating well, you're resting, you're sleeping, you're, you know, preparing for the trip, and also just all of the tech issues, the tech opportunities of having the apps of, you know, of your, you know, whoever your airline is, and checking in early, doing all of the regards for the international check-ins that you can do online, having your international boarding passes. There's like continuously like tech stuff. And so hopefully everyone, you know, is really paying attention to that. The other thing too is that there will be a pop-up dinner. We've done this in the past with Chef Sean Sherman, and the information and also the announcement will be made shortly. It will be a ticketed event, and the last time we did sell out almost right away. And so, you know, if you're interested, we will help to push that announcement forward, but also you'll probably see that on social media. And as well as knowing that there'll be other opportunities for you to engage with the Indigenous chefs, as we have probably half of the delegates are Indigenous chefs that will be going and attending Terra Madre. And then as well as, you know, some of you have known that we had this Let's Eat In campaign. So let's eat Indigenous. And so the folks, we've been trying to push this through Indigenous Terra Madre. We're still working on how we're going to be able to do that. And as well as not knowing if we're going to have these t-shirts available over there. We won't have a booth. And I think that's the same for Slow Food USA. So really looking at how we're going to be trading, taking, distributing all of our goods. We're going to be like mobile markets, like every one of us, right? With our bags, with our stuff to gift or whatever that may be. But these t-shirts are available on our website at Dine Advocacy. So if you're interested in supporting, this is another way that we are also going to be connecting the staff for Slow Food International. They got their shirts last month, and so we'll also be wearing this shirt if those of you that are interested in getting that early on, because I don't know if we will have, you know, more capacity to carry these t-shirts around. We will have some buttons and stickers that you can put on your water bottles. And that's the thing is, like, you know, as we think about what we're going to be bringing, the swag, you know, some of your, you know, work, some of your art, some of your whatever your food art or your food, whatever that may be, that you're gifting and trading. That's also important on how to organize that, but also maybe to pre-package it, to have it ready, because as soon as you arrive at the airport and you see that snail, it's your first opportunity to engage. And so if you have like, what are your stickers, like put it in your little like satchel and like bring that out and like start, you know, like as the moment that you start to get there, start, you know, networking. The moment you get off that plane and you're getting into the bus, you're with the world in the bus. You're with people from all around the world. It's your time to take advantage and start networking at that point. And so I just really want to put the importance of that about what we'll be sharing and giving and gifting and trading. That's many of the things that we talked about in a really quick manner.
Thank you so much, Denisa. Well, I really think we did a good job staying on track with the time. We covered a ton of stuff. It was so good to get to talk with each of you and our groups. And I feel like there's some real excitement getting generated here. And I really am excited about that. So let's see, Anna, you have your hand raised. Do you want to close us out?
Yeah, well, this is a little more technical thing than the inspirational closing, but just wanted like a quick hand check if a WhatsApp group would be appealing to people to bypass Facebook and to be able to connect with each other. Can you either raise your physical hand or put your little reaction up, or do an X if you're like, I don't know what WhatsApp is. What? Facebook owns WhatsApp, doesn't it? We can't get away from the giants. But I think it's the most universal private platform. So, okay, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up, just a couple of thumbs down. Great. We also have the listserv, and Mara has been writing to you on that listserv, but you can also use that listserv to write each other. So please know that that is open communication for you all to connect. So I think between email and the listserv, maybe between those two, we're covered. Cool. Okay, Mara, back to you with the closing.
Our next meeting is September 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Sorry about the first round of communications where I didn't let you know what time zone tonight was, but thanks for everyone for showing up anyway. We are keeping those time zones Eastern for all of our meetings here. So yeah, 7 p.m. September 12th. In the interim, if you have any questions, you can just email me at terramadre@slowfoodusa.org or mara@slowfoodusa.org. And we will get you your information and answer your questions. And don't forget to interact with each other on the listserv as Denise or as Anna mentioned. That's there for you as well. I think that's it from me, and you'll be hearing from me soon. I can't wait to meet up again. When we see each other again as a big group, we're like a week and a half out. So that's a week. It's like literally a week. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Maybe we could just all unmute and say good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
From Sarah.
Night.
Mhm.